Olá, boa tarde. Good afternoon.
Hi everyone.
Hello. So I'm Alex Soncini, one of the co-founders of VTEX, and I'm here with Olivier. In this panel, we are going to talk a little bit about composability and how it's playing a key role in the test and trial strategies of companies, helping them to work with no CapEx and very little OpEx. So Olivier, before we start, first thank you very much for being here with us. And before we start talking about your IT investments and strategy, let's talk a little bit about this French multinational Carrefour. So could you introduce yourself a little bit, talk about Carrefour, and also how important is Brazil for the operation, please?
Yes, sure. First, thanks for having invited me here today. So my name is Olivier Gibert. I live in France. I'm 50 years old. I've been working in technology for around 25 years. I joined Carrefour almost 9 years ago. I started with French IT teams. I was the lead architect, leading a team where we completely re-platformed the French e-commerce. And then after 5 years spent there, I joined group teams to also enable transformation at group level. Few words about Carrefour. So currently Carrefour, we are operating in more than 43 countries, directly or through franchisee. We opened Israel last month, for instance, with 50 countries. We have a total number of employees, a bit more than 335,000 people, and we are running a bit more than 14,000 stores worldwide. In terms of revenue, last year we achieved a bit more than 91 billion euros, and if we focus on e-commerce, our total GMV for e-commerce was a bit more than 4.2 billion euros. So, and we still have strong ambition on that because we have a target of 10 billion end of 2026. Last word and important word about Brazil. Brazil is currently becoming the #1 country for us. Last year we made the acquisition of Grupo BIG, and now we are having a total number of employees a bit more than 137,000. And we have a strong growth there. We are still continuing to push for having such growth for the upcoming years. We recorded last year a bit more than 38 billion euro sales. So definitely Brazil is becoming the #1 country for Carrefour.
That's super great to hear as we are here in Brazil. So let's talk a little bit about the digital strategy of Carrefour. What can you share with us about that?
I think the first thing I want to share with you is a quote from our CEO, Alex Soncini, who 2.5 years ago said, "We want to transform Carrefour, a retailer with traditional e-commerce capabilities, into a digital retail company which places tech and data at the heart of its processes and its value creation model." So I would say that set the expectation and the ambition. Now, practically, how our strategy is divided. We have 5 pillars.
We have the slide.
Yeah.
We cannot see, but it's there.
Yeah, so we have 5 pillars which are describing our digital strategy. I will explain briefly what it is related about. So the first one is placing tech and data at the service of performance, meaning we want to use tech and data to improve our efficiency, to better serve our customer, to be way better in our stores. For instance, we want to improve our supply chain, building intelligent forecasting algorithm. We want to bring tools for employees in the store so that they are more efficient. Second pillar is optimize our commercial model through digital. So something similar but slightly different. We want to use tech and data to be better on the commercial way. For instance, we are building analytics model using machine learning for pricing to be able to have pricing at a store level, so to be able to be very tailored in terms of pricing. The third pillar, we call it prepare the future. So that means we want to be ready for the upcoming challenges. For instance, we started a retail media activity last year, and we are continuing developing it. We announced last year a joint venture with Publicis to enable this on a worldwide scale. And we are also working on innovation. I think we will talk about innovation later. The fourth one is modern and efficient tech foundation. To do that, we need to have strong foundation to build on solid things. For instance, cloud is a great example. We have a move to cloud program where we want to achieve 100% of our workload in the cloud end of 2026. Currently, we are around 60% already moved. And finally, we want to reinvent our ways of working, meaning we want to combine more efficiently IT and businesses and also bring tools to employees so that they can leverage tech and data in total autonomy.
And I think we are going to talk a little bit about it as well, right?
Yeah. And also, I want to highlight the fact that now we are moving to global products. So in the past, Carrefour, in all its geographies, countries were relatively autonomous. We did to build their, let's say, their digital platform. What we see now is we want also to leverage assets we have in some countries and to make this asset benefit of other countries. So you have some examples here. The first one, I think it's called Smart POS. So we are building our own point of sale system, and we are currently deploying it in France, Spain, Italy, probably Brazil will come soon. And there are several examples here on this slide. You can see also our pick and pack tool, which is an e-commerce picking system we have been building in Italy, currently deployed in France, and we plan to deploy it in Brazil in Atacadão stores.
Great. So we talked a little bit about Carrefour, digital strategy. Let's deep dive on e-commerce. So after this accelerated growth of the past maybe 3 years, how do you see the future of commerce for Carrefour, for the organization?
I would say two things. First, we still have strong growth ambition. As I said, 10 billion end of 2026. Ambitions are varying from one country to another. For instance, in France, we are achieving a good growth on food. We are lagging still behind on non-food, so our efforts are made on non-food. In Brazil, I would say it's the opposite, probably. We are way better on non-food, and we want to improve on food. And also, in Brazil, we have a challenge. We started e-commerce activity with Atacadão 1.5 years ago, and we have a strong growth. We want to continue this growth. So growth is the first point. The second point, I think it's personalization. We want to be more tailored for each customer. And to do that, data is a key asset and a key activity. For instance, if I make a quick poll, how many of you in the audience, if I can't see you, have already purchased more than 3 times at Carrefour in the past? Can you raise your hands? Yeah, so yeah, some of you. So for those who have bought more than 3 times, with data, we are able to predict 80% of your next purchases. 80%. So good and bad news, I would say. The bad news, human beings are highly predictable. Okay, we are always buying the same product. Good news for us is that knowing that we have better data to serve you and to propose personalized things such as promotions, such as displaying contextualized catalogs, etc.
Great. So again, that's great to see the evolution of those retailers that were like super traditional, how they are converging to digital and technology, and how digital and technology is becoming important for their operation. So again, I am an engineer. You are the global CTO of Carrefour. It's difficult not to talk about technology. So we are going to talk about composable commerce, as most of the previous sessions they've talked about it. And basically, I think, so we are talking about this new wave of this composable commerce that is coming. So from the first wave of legacy on-premises to the second wave of software as a service, then the best of breed with headless, and finally the composable, that it's leveraging the headless architecture, but in a conscious way, in a pragmatic way. And that's what we are going to talk about. So this is not an easy switch for the CIOs and CTOs that were like used to manage IT resources, but this is adding a lot of value to the business, and that's great. So how are we going to take the CIOs and CTOs out of their comfort zones from the past 10, 20 years to make them adopt this new technology? And what was your goal behind adopting a composable commerce architecture? Because Carrefour adopted a composable commerce architecture and ditched the heavily customized monolith that you had before.
I would say we didn't do it for tech reason. Because I don't think composable architecture is a target. It's probably more a way to achieve a target which is for us better serving our customers. So that's why we switched to that, because we were seeing that having monoliths, it was very complex to be well serving our customers. So I think three main reasons. We wanted to provide a first-class shopping experience to our customer, which wasn't the case before. When we wanted evolution, it took too many times, etc. We wanted also to ensure that our platform were highly available and scalable enough, okay, to be sure that we can provide the customer a shopping experience for everyone. And finally, we wanted to have speed to market. It wasn't affordable for us to wait, I don't know, 6 months before delivering a new feature which was expected by many of our customers. So to summarize, business expectation and the will to better serve our customer has been the key driver to move to composable.
And moving a little bit outside of the script, talking about, because everything is about customer, right? So everything that we are doing behind the scenes is to make sure that we improve the customer experience. And you talked about speed to market, you talked about agility, you talked about how composable can help on that. So Carrefour is very customer-centric, right? Can you talk a little bit about it, about the culture?
I think it's a key point for us to. I would say we have at Carrefour. How do we model the company? In fact, we can imagine a pyramid, a reverse pyramid. So at the top you have a huge base, first layer, which is the customer. Then below, you have another layer, the employees, okay? Then you have the top management, and then you have the suppliers, okay? And the goal is to better serve the customer. So employees at the service of the customer, top management is at the service of the employees and the customer, and that's how it's working. So culturally speaking, everyone is focused on how do we improve our level of service we provide to the customer, and it's guiding our daily decision.
Amazing, amazing. And everything with technology, right? So technology is the one that enables all that to happen. So continuing talking about composability and architecture, we are going to see, this is the architecture of, the high-level architecture of the Carrefour project here in Brazil. And so how has Carrefour implemented composability in its business? Could you give some real examples? I was talking with you and you were talking about that before doing that in Brazil, you also did that in France, right?
Yeah, exactly. We did that when I was working for the French IT team. We did that 5 years ago. At that time, we had a monolith, okay, and we had the same experience on everyone. So it was difficult to evolve, slow. So how did we do that? We chunked the monolith into several parts. We decided first to focus on the front end, because for us, having control on the front end and being able to adapt quickly the customer experience was key. So we started to build something new front end, new UI layer. We plugged it to the monolith. Then we focused on the search engine. Honestly, at that time, on search, we were nowhere. Our search engine was not working good enough. So we decided to build a new component, which was search and publication. We picked, let's say, a technology layer, and we put on top of it a specialized retail layer to provide retail-focused features, such as facet, etc., having a good autocomplete features, etc. And then once these two parts were done, we focus on the rest, I would say the checkout, the cart, etc. And it took us, it's a journey. It took us around, I would say, 5 years to do everything, food, non-food, marketplace, etc., until it was totally migrated to this composable approach.
Great, and with the experience that you had on Carrefour, what do you think are the main benefits of composability for retailers?
I think the first one is, as you have module, you can work in parallel. So you have a faster time to market. You can improve your search on one side, improve your authentication part on the other side, being better at promotion, etc. So this is the first point. You will have also more frequent deployment because you have several teams, so you are deploying faster. And with Composable, you have also the ability to combine best-of-breed solution. You can say, okay, on my platform, I don't know, my search engine or my CM is not good enough, I want to improve it. So you have the ability to say, okay, this part I will remove it and pick another one. With a monolith, you have to take everything. And so you don't have this simplicity or the way to adapt so easily. So that's for me the main point.
And you talked about that you can deploy fast.
Yeah.
You can have faster deploys. So this new economy, we need to try to do things with no capex and with little opex, right? So all companies are trying to continue to increase their revenue, but with profitability. So how these test and trial strategies and this fast deploy also help the company towards their goals?
I think maybe I will explain a bit later. For instance, in France, we are leveraging what we call digital factories, who are structures where people are working to deliver value on a specific domain. And these digital factories are not entitled beginning of the year to deliver this and that. In fact, they have to deliver value with a defined budget, but they can adapt. Okay, they can change the plan during the year and take into account the values they deliver. So I don't think you can run and evolve an e-commerce business with zero capex. Honestly, that's a challenge. But you can, I think you can benefit from existing solution which can accelerate the fact that we bring value to the customer because we have packaged solutions. So I would say it's not simple, but you simply have to plug them in your ecosystem.
That's great. So let's move on and talk about some real examples of how composability helped Carrefour. So this slide shows a campaign that was made by Carrefour during Big Brother Brazil 2023. So Carrefour did a campaign inside Big Brother Brazil. So during the announcement of the campaign, they have this traffic spike. So this is the traffic spike that Carrefour had in their website while they were doing the campaign, live campaign in Big Brother Brazil 2023. So that's a huge traffic spike at the time of the announcement. And the good news is that we also had the conversion in orders. So it was not only traffic spike, it was traffic spike with some quality. So we saw the orders going up and being above the trend. So I heard that before having a composable solution, this could not be possible for Carrefour. How important is this pragmatic composable architecture for the elasticity of the business?
In this specific case, I think composable gave us the ability to focus on scalability on specific components. As you say, when we make so huge marketing campaigns, we are generating very important traffic to our platform. So then we promise to our customer, you will live a fantastic experience on our platform. So you can't deceive them. You must realize the promise. So how did we do that? 2 points. We first worked on the fact that we had to ingest all the traffic and to be able to serve all the customers. And so the total amount of volume. And then individually, we wanted also to have something which was an experience which was fast and interactive. On the first point, we built dedicated front-end servers with a JavaScript framework. We deployed them on Kubernetes pods in order to ensure scalability. And during peak times, we doubled the number of pods. I think we had 400 pods serving the pages, plus a CDN, of course, etc. And so this secured the traffic. And then on an individual experience, we worked also on that to ensure that pages were loading fast, were interactive enough so that customer could navigate and do their shopping. And that worked. In fact, I think during peak time, as you showed, we were able to ingest a bit more than 38,000 requests per second. Yesterday I was talking with a Brazilian team. I can see them there. But they were quite proud because they told me, you know what? Among all partners from BBB23, Carrefour was the only one which platform didn't went down when there was a traffic spikes. So yeah, I think they can be proud of that. That was a great challenge, and we achieved it.
That's a great achievement. It's great to hear that because we're seeing a lot of. It's easy to support the happy path, and when nothing's going wrong, but when you have this kind of thing, like you are investing a lot of marketing money in a campaign like this, and then everybody goes to the website and the website crashes.
Exactly, yeah. And I think I would say we had the same during COVID. During pandemic, the main challenge was scalability. We basically, in all our geographies, we simplified a lot our website, cutting all the slow components and just to ensure, okay, we need to have the site up and running.
Yeah. That's basic, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the challenges, because again, we are talking about benefits, we're talking about how to implement, how easy it is, etc. But challenges, like what were the main challenges of implementing a composable solution?
I think the first challenge is you have to define clear business boundaries. So you start with a monolith doing everything. And so you will decide, okay, I will chunk it into several pieces. And you have to be very clear on what will be the future domain each component will manage. This reminds me of some books. I remember a book from Sam Newman about microservices where I was speaking about bounded context. And the key point was to clearly define bounded context. I think it's exactly the same. You have to define precisely what is the domain on which each component will work. For instance, let's assume you want to have a domain managing the cart on your e-commerce. Question is, do the cart component, should we make it manage promotion? Because when you are adding item to cart, potentially you have promotion. So should the promotion business logic be implemented inside it? You can say, okay, yes, because it's in the cart. It's deeply linked to the cart. But on the opposite, when the customers are navigating to the website, they also want to see the promotion. So promotion is not only about calculating things in the cart, it's also about displaying it before so that the customer can make his choice. So in this example, for instance, in France, we decided to have 2 different domains. So the cart was one topic, and the promotion was another one. So clear business boundaries, for me, is the first point. The second point is ensure that teams are well synchronized, because you will never have a situation where each component is totally autonomous from the other. For instance, you build on e-commerce for food, we can have variable weights. Okay, and variable weights is spreading across all the logic. So you have to display variable weights, you have to take variable weights into account in your cart. How do you calculate the cart? once the purchase is done, you have to take into account that your order management system has to be aware of the fact that there are variable weights, the picking system the same. So you see, it's a very good example of a feature which is basic for the customer, but very complex to implement. So this is the second point. Team synchronization has to be, let's say, we have to take care very carefully of these kind of features.
Great. And we probably have other CTOs, CIOs in the audience today, some IT team leaders as well. What would be the 3 pieces of advice that you would give for those CIOs, CTOs that are here, like here to us today, and are thinking about eventually migrating to a composable architecture?
First, I would say, do it for business purpose. It's not let's say a must-have. In some cases, you don't need composable approach. I think you need it when you have already, for instance, for e-commerce, when you have already a very significant business and for which you need to get more growth, more personalization, so you need more advanced features, and to keep the pace, you need to have this composable approach. But if you run a business with, I would say, which is not so important, potentially an end-to-end solution can be a fit. And I think VTEX is a good example of a vendor who is capable of providing both options. You want the end-to-end platform, you got it, and you get it fast. And you want to potentially add a specific component into the platform, you can do it also. So that's the first point. Do it for business purpose. Then, second point, start with the basics. I would recommend that don't set your objective as having a perfect component, a cutting-edge component in all components, because the value is not delivered by a single component. The value is delivered by the set of components working together. So it's way better to have something which is potentially limited but working fast, and then you can improve it. And my third advice would be try to reuse as much as possible the existing landscape you have. You potentially have some piece of software components, vendor, I don't know, custom code, which you can adapt and which will save you your time so you can deliver more quickly your new platform. That's what we did in France, for instance. We had a CMS which was already in place and we were able to integrate it. Same for the front end. We didn't start from scratch. We integrated some preliminary work we did some years ago.
No, great. And on that path, this shift from on-premises and legacy solutions, so we had a lot of in-house and proprietary systems that we are shifting to the composability. It will incur in less headcount in the IT area, so less engineers, less developers. But for many years, those CIOs and CTOs, for them, power was increasing their headcount. So as more headcount as they had, as more power as they had inside the organization. And so with the shift to composable, probably this will also be a fear for them. So how do you see, and how would you advise those CIOs and CTOs that are still resisting to switch to this new technology because they have this fear of losing power, of having less headcount?
I think it's the opposite, in fact, because for sure the missions are changing. We are no more building or writing lines of code and building monoliths and one monolith next to each other. We need to combine different components, different types of products from different vendors, or also some custom code. So the complexity for me is way higher. Even if you combine that the fact that you want to move to cloud, cloud is it's a fantastic way to deliver technology, but it's very complex. If I go back in the past, when you were building software, you didn't care about network. You didn't care about hardware. Okay, there were specialized teams. Now, when you want to deploy a system, a product in the cloud, you need to, if you don't have SaaS, if you have SaaS, it's okay, it's managed, but sometimes you need to also deliver systems which you have been created, and then you have to take into account, okay, how do I design the network? How do I ensure scalability? So do I use Kubernetes? Do I use VM? Do I use serverless? So all these features are still here, and probably more than before. So I think the need for skills in terms for the tech team, CTO and CIO, yeah, for me is way higher, because making different systems working together, it's kind of managing a distributed system. So how do we combine them together? Should we use APIs? Should we use event-driven architecture? So all these topics are quite complex to define, and there is not a single solution which works in all cases.
Oh, and that's great, because that connects with our next topic, that it's talking about IT plus business. So for many years, IT was considered like an internal provider, a help desk. I have a problem with my computer, I'm going to call IT. And not a strategic partner of the company, not in the forefront. So can you talk a little bit how Composable helped the IT to become a key player in the company strategy at Carrefour?
Yeah. When I joined Carrefour 9 years ago, we were clearly in the situation you described. So we were fighting, in fact, we were fighting with businesses. It was horrible. They were not happy, we had delays, we didn't understand each other. So it was very complex to bring value also. And then we managed to change. I would say it wasn't a decision, so one morning you wake up and you say, okay, now we are going to work differently. You need a strong sponsorship from your top management. If you don't have it, if you decide only on the tech side or on the business side to say, okay, now we will work together. No, it's not working. You need a top-down decision. Then how we did that? In front, we started with e-commerce. So we decided to build Scrum teams in parallel with, as I explained, as we were splitting the monolith. So we built Scrum teams. After a certain period of time, the teams were growing, so we had to change our methodology. We have chosen SAFe, so Agile at Scale, to finally end up with now what we call digital factories, so which are entities which are combining all the skills and are delivering value in a specific domain. So in France, we have a digital factory for e-commerce, which is operating for more than 6 years. We are now deploying it in other domains, for instance, supply chain, merchandise, finance. So that's the way we are doing it.
So I think that the real power for CTOs and CIOs are to be closer to business and working strategically on top of the goals of the company, and not just like increasing their teams with nonsense and having power. So that's great. And we are here talking about a lot of technology, but e-commerce is also very business related. And I've been seeing that all the organizations, they have been, the IT is becoming more business, and business is becoming more tech. So we are seeing that converging. Eventually in the future, in the long term, we will not have this division anymore between IT and business. Everybody will be business, but with some tech background, whatever. So how do you see that happening inside Carrefour? And do you have any training process in place? How do you train the business people to understand what's cloud, what's Kubernetes, what's pods, and whatever?
Yeah. First, I would say we do not request business team to code. Okay, I think that's a good news for them. I think it's also a good news for the tech teams. Our approach is more to combine all the required skills to work together. So our approach, we call it 4 in a box. It has been inspired by other retailers. Walmart is using intensively 4 in a box. How does it work? The idea is for each initiative to build a team which will combine 4 kinds of skills. First one, business, then product, then tech and data, and then design. So if I zoom a bit more, business teams are in charge of defining their problem, explaining what is my problem, what do I have to do which I can't do now. Product teams are in charge of defining the solution from a product perspective. So it's no more the business team who will say, hey, I found this vendor, or I had a dev who did some shadow IT, and that's great. So product team are building the product and defining the life cycle of this product. Tech and data team are here to implement it, whether it's a vendor product which we have to configure and integrate, or some piece of custom code because, or machine learning, a model to train, etc. And finally, the design team is here to take care of the user experience. We generally do that for customer-facing application, but for internal application, it's probably never the case. And that's a wrong idea, because we've seen that, for instance, when we were speaking about global product, I was showing you the picking app for e-commerce. So this application has been initially built in Italy, and then when France took it to implement it, we had also a design review. Honestly, the team was saying, oh no, you can have a look at it, but I think it's okay. And in fact, the design teams, they worked together with the pickers in the store, and they were able to identify lots of improvement we put into the application. So that's the main point.
No, and I like this approach, because on one hand, the business goal is to define the problem to be solved and not to bring a solution, right? And then we have the PMs, the product managers, that are the ones understanding the size of the problem, the complexity on how to translate this problem in tech, and bring that to the tech people, to the designers, and say, guys, now you need to figure out a solution and bring it back to us. Exactly. And that's a flying wheel. So.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's
great. And about training, so we have trainings on that. I would say we have two kinds of training. We have what we call awareness training. So, because, for instance, last year in France, we trained 85,000 people to digital. All the employees in the store, all the employees in the warehouse, to explain them how digital can improve their day-to-day work. We did something similar with executive. We had a training program which was called Data for Executive. We trained the top 200 managers from Carrefour worldwide to data and AI. 2 days, focus on that, hands-on session, big query, blah, 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 machine learning. The idea was not to make them code, but to make them aware of the potential of data in this case. And related to 4-in-a-box, for sure we have product training, because you don't invent how to be a product manager. You have to be trained. So it's also something we are working on.
That's good. And what do you think are the key elements? Data is one probably, but what do you think are the key elements to make this collaboration between IT and business very successful?
The first point, I think, we've seen it at Carrefour, you can't decide it at a, let's say, operational level. It's a change at company level. In our case, our CEO is convinced that tech and data is a key lever to reach our 2026 targets. Okay, so there is no more discussion about technology is a cost, we have to reduce it. Technology is a way to deliver the strategy. And then, so once you have the sponsorship from your management, then you need to align everyone on the strategic priorities of your company to be sure, okay, this is what we want to achieve. And to do that, to monitor that, in our case, we are using OKR, objectives and key results, which we are deploying. Idea is to define yearly objectives with, let's say, intermediate key results. So we are able to track, and key results are not, it's business oriented, okay? I want to improve my NPS from, I don't know, from 20 up to 40 by end of this year. And you have different key results, intermediate, so that you can track that.
No, that's great. And you talked about the culture between IT and and business that in the past was a pointing fingers culture, right? So IT was not delivering, so that's why business was not reaching their goals, and that was this vicious cycle happening. But talking about this new phase, what are the main challenges? So I'm assuming that there are still challenges between this collaboration. So what are the main challenges that the company faces when promoting this collaboration between IT and business today?
I think the first one is to rebuild trust between IT and business. For instance, when you have shadow IT, it's generally showing that collaboration is not good. Okay, otherwise you don't have shadow IT. And rebuilding trust, you don't decide, okay, tomorrow we will trust again, so it will take time. And that's why also we need strong sponsorship, because people have to understand that they must work on that topic and that it will work. In my example in France, initially when we started to rebuild the Carrefour.fr platform, there were IT teams, business teams, but when you had org chart, you had two org charts, the techs and the business teams. At the end of the project, we had no more was saying, okay, hey Alex, you're from IT or you're from business? No. We were working all together on e-commerce, so that's a key point. So rebuilding trust is a very important point. And linked to that, as we are moving to 4 in a box, we are redefining roles and responsibilities. And so we need to ensure that all people stick to their new role. For instance, business is no more coming with a solution. Tech and data are no more designing the experience. You see? Products are not choosing the technology. And that's also a challenge, because when you've been working in another way for years, it's complex to explain to people, no, you stick to your new role and this is working.
That's great. And for everybody that is watching us, that is right now passing through this digital transformation, because all the companies in a different stage, they are passing through this digital transformation process, what would be your advice for them?
I would say, avoid the big bang on the new methodology. Start with the first perimeter, an important one, because if you succeed on something which is not important, people will tell you, okay, but this is not important for the company. So in France, we did it for e-commerce, which was quite significant. And consider this first perimeter as your MVP for your new ways of working. Because once you've succeeded, you can explain, okay, look, we did that for e-commerce or for, I don't know, any other domain, and it worked. We were able to work together and to deliver value. So it will help you then deploy it more widely in other departments. And second point, which is very important, is train. As I said, you have to train all levels of the company. Okay, not only the operational team, but also your manager. That's why we did that data for executive. So being able to train everyone so that you don't have people resisting or not understanding the benefit of this new approach.
That's great. And let's talk about the other side of Composable. So Composable is going to help you to have less in-house, less on-premises solution, be more agile, give you speed to market, but also will make you to deal with many technology vendors, like VTEX, for example. So what do you look at a technology provider to make this partnership successful?
I think there are two levels of conversation with vendor. The first one is here to ensure that day-to-day operations are running well. If you have issues with one of your vendor, you will have your brain polluted by that, and even if the vendor has great initiatives, you will be kind of reluctant. Okay, no, I prefer, can we fix first the day-to-day issues? So that's the first topic. And to do that, you need to have a close collaboration with all your partners. That's what I see at my level. There are some vendors we never talk, and when we ask feedback from the team, generally it's not so good. And vendors with whom we have a close collaboration, which we are interactive on a regular basis, yeah, it's way better. So that's the first point. And then we want our partners, vendors to, let's say, to have a vision on their market, to be able to challenge us, to say, hey, we consider that e-commerce will evolve this way or this way. And on our side, we are sharing our issues, our ambitions, our targets, so that we can have this combined conversation and say, okay, this topic is interesting for us, or this one is not. And sometimes a topic which might be uninteresting at a certain time will become interesting in the future. I remember we had some discussion, I think it was 2 years ago, about conversational commerce and for Brazil. And at that point, we had other topics more important to achieve. So the idea was good, but it was not the right time. And when we met, I think 2 months ago, we said, yeah, now it's time to move forward. So that's the essence of the collaboration.
No, that's great, and I think that's also helped us to connect to the next topic, that it's innovation. We talked about AI, we talked about conversational commerce. So, as a company that was founded in 1959, right, 60 plus years old, that mostly sells commodities like food, fresh food, etc. How do you foster innovation inside Carrefour, and how important it is to differentiate yourself from the competition?
I think first, innovation has always been in our DNA. As you said, we are a company a bit more than 60 years old. We invented the first hypermarket it was 60 years ago. It was in 1963 in Sainte-Geneviève-des-Bois with the concept of having everything under one roof. And so our strategy related to innovation is we do not want to miss any opportunity. So we are having a close look at everything which is appearing on the market. However, we are not testing everything. We have strong convictions, and some topics we want to invest, some others not, and we remain humble with that. Some initiatives might fail. That's life. It can happen, but. And we are focusing our, let's say, effort on innovation which can bring value to customer experience and employee experience. So to do that, everyone in the company is entitled to work on innovation. There is a team, a global innovation team, but it's not their exclusive mandate to work on innovation. And to do that, we have internal skills. We are working with partners, such as VTEX. We are working with startups also. So that's why last year we built a venture capital. We created a venture capital fund, which is called Dastor, to help us better work with startups. Last year with Dastor, we screened a bit more than 1,200 projects, and we invested in 5 startups.
Great. So we are almost running out of time, but I will ask you a last question. We're talking about it at the backstage, about some of the innovation projects that Carrefour is running right now. So can you talk a little bit, give some real examples of innovation projects that Carrefour is working on?
So I think I brought 3 of them on the slide. So the first one on the left, it's an autonomous store. So this one is an autonomous store we are deploying in Brazil. So there are almost 20 stores already open in condominium where you can have a fast and efficient shopping experience. The second one, the truck, is something which is live in France. So it's autonomous delivery. Okay, so what is the idea? We have a truck we totally rebuilt. We put plenty of lockers on it. We put some technology inside it. And so this is a totally autonomous truck. So the truck is loaded at the preparation location, and then the truck is doing a trip of 15 kilometers up to a campus in the south of Paris where customers can pick their orders directly. It's been up and running for 8 months. The truck is doing 4 round trips per day, and since the beginning, there has never been an empty locker, so it has been always full. And we never had any accident also.
Amazing.
Yeah. And finally, the last picture is for internal use. So what we are currently doing is we are deploying camera inside our stores with computer vision to detect out-of-shelf products. So I'm not sure it's very clear, but you can see on the green zone the area where products are available, and I think there is a red area at the bottom where we have detected, okay, here there is a missing product, so we can notify employees and ensure that we are able to provide products every time to our customer.
Amazing. And just in time. So I'm sure that Laura is going to be happy that our time is up. Olivier, thank you very much for being here at VTEX Day main stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.